Let's rock and roll. So welcome everybody. It is, I believe, is this the last episode of our webinar, Harry? Maybe the second last, episode 3.
Well, it's might be the last of your involvement, but there is a couple.
Last of my involvement. So we'll make sure it's a good one. Today's topic is around giving your technology a bit of an upgrade, especially in these uncertain times that we're in at the moment. So, mate, as usual, no bullshit, no fluff, just keep it real, and let's have a bit of a conversation around it. So I guess, look, you know, you right there, Harry? Mate, I know between like you and I, we're a bit, you know, we're tech heads. We love our technology, we love our SaaS products. You know, I know for us, you know, at Impressive, our tech stack is comprised of like, you know, HubSpot with, you know, G Suite, with Slack, which we're pretty heavy on, Zoom, Google Hangouts. We've got a pretty sort of comprehensive tech stack. So I'm just going to throw it out there, like, you know, what are some of the technologies that you feel, especially right now in this current climate that we're in, that are probably the most relevant? And then some of the others that are probably, you think, you know what, that could be replaced with a cheaper alternative, or you might as well just not even have it in your stack.
It's a good question. Like, I think at the start of the year, we were trying to be very proactive with looking at AI-driven tools and looking at like a particular service-based businesses or in marketing departments, which tools could make current marketing staff more efficient, or what are the monotonous, small, repetitive tasks that technology can kind of take over. I was watching a lot of kind of webinars and things on that. A lot of stuff coming out from HubSpot, actually, who I obviously used to work for, who acquired a company called Motion AI. They were finding a lot of the tools to increase marketing departments' efficiencies were coming in analyzing the content on people's websites. So a lot of the time, because of the way that, and I'll just park on this subject for a sec, the way that websites have been built and content brought up over like the last kind of like, you know, 4 or 5, even some going back to 10 years, the Google algorithm has changed so much where at first it was like, let's just get some content out there, any content. Yeah. And then that's gone from marketing employee to agency to whoever's written that content over the last 5 years. And we're kind of getting to a point now where Google's looking at the kind of cluster method where you've got the core topic with the subtopics kind of surrounding it and all linking it together to add value to the searcher. And everyone's having to reevaluate all the content that's on their site and rearrange it and things like that. So I think some AI-driven tools in that department, as well as in the lead qualification and customer support. I guess if you throw customer experience into the marketing bucket, those are like the kind of the main 2 tools that I've been exploring. I would say though, with this current situation, obviously like I'm across everyone that inquires with their own business and across a lot of the conversations that are happening between our account managers and our strategists and current businesses. The 2 main shifts that we're seeing with technology is one, like, how do I get my business online? I don't even have a website. And the second one is I've got a website, but there's no shopping cart. There's no plugged in Google reviews. There's no chat bot. There's none of these things that can help me accelerate my online business. I reckon if we focus on a couple of those today, we'll be helping a few people out.
Look, absolutely. And I think now like MarTech, you know, is more critical than ever. You know, gone are the days, I think, of separating sales and marketing and having them as both different departments that sit in different areas of the world right now, right? So, you know, I think there's some technology out there, and there's a lot of platforms, some that you've already mentioned, that can really benefit a lot of our, you know, a lot of our listeners, and just to really bridge that gap between tech and marketing, to streamline, create efficiency and productivity within the customer journey, right? I think, well, I believe anyway, and I'm sure you probably agree with this, given that you're pretty much across a lot of the inquiries and a lot of the sales that happen at Impressive. But you know, we speak to a lot of businesses that are still very, very much, you know, they separate them both. You know, sales is responsible for one thing, marketing is responsible for another. And I think, you know, a tool like HubSpot, for example, which I know, you know, we're very much entrenched in at Impressive, is a great tool that brings both teams together to ensure that productivity and efficiency. And I think right now, is the most critical time to evaluate such a tool and to ensure that you are getting the most out of it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I just think people are making more. It's no doubt about it. I think you need to go and ask if you have a doubt in what I'm about to say, you need to go and ask 5 people from a 50+ age bracket, 5 from a 50 to 35, maybe down to 30, maybe even 4, maybe 5 between 30 and 20, and then or 30 and 18 or 17, and then 5 from those below, and ask them about how they shop for a service online. When I'm speaking to like my little brother and sister, who are like one of them's on the border of the 15 age bracket, and let's just assume they're in that 15 and below, they do not want to speak to a sales rep. The way that their user journey is guided by the companies who within their marketing can provide them with being able to do. They want 100% of the research process to happen without speaking to someone and being available through resources. So that means like, let's cover off first of all the things that need to happen for you to complete a buying process, and then let's put that into an online journey. Yep. First of all, you're going to need some basic consideration. Like, why would I consider this product? Is it being featured on sites when I'm typing in, I'm looking for a software solution in the conversion space? Am I getting sent to like a G2 crowd or a Trust Radius? And is my product getting featured there? So a lot of the time it's like consideration type piece, social proof. Okay, so people are looking without having to speak to Joe Blogs down the street or go and look at LinkedIn and see if there's anyone else that the sales rep from that company can say uses your product, and you should go and talk to someone in your connection about how their experience has been. Like, how am I going to get consideration, see it on a peer-reviewed site, get social proof? How am I going to be able to test the product? Pretty much most companies are trying to come down and give some sort of trial or entry offer. How am I going to is the company going to ask me for enough detail that they can personalize their marketing to me throughout that journey? Or are they just going to ask for first name and last name and then have to send me the same emails that everyone else gets? And can I engage with like a chat service or a chat bot? I think I've purchased some software recently. I've even posted about it on LinkedIn, where I got such a better service from the chat bot, sending me all the right information. I didn't waste my time. It didn't try to oversell me on anything. It just sent me the stuff that I needed and guided me down the journey in a really efficient way. And the experience for me was fantastic. So I think if people out there are doubting the way that people are buying online, I think you just need to go and run your own mini experiment and go and ask those different people from those different age brackets about the last few shopping experiences they've had online. They won't be able to hide from the answers, and they'll start to try to implement that into their own journey.
Hey, that's some amazing points right there. And I guess it's a bit of a segue into the second question that I wanted to touch on is like, for a business out there that doesn't have a very comprehensive tech stack and is starting to evaluate some of these tools, whether it's chatbot or CRM, automation, any of those, like, where do they start? Like, how do they get started? And I know you've come from the space, right? Like, you worked at HubSpot for, was it like 5 years or whatever it was? So like, and I know you were sort of at the forefront of that. So like, what is some advice, I guess, we can give some of that to our listeners to go, guys, if you are going to go down this route, like, here's step 1, 2, and 3 that you should take.
Yeah. Great question. An educated buyer is a lot different from an uneducated buyer in terms of the outcome that they're going to generally end up in. And let's look at those two things for a start. An educated buyer will be basically 90% of the way down the research process before they even get to you. If your company hasn't enabled them to get there, they might not even speak to you in the first place. Or if they're speaking to you, they're going to have direct, exact questions, and they don't want to hear a lot of fluff at the start. They're going to rush you through that process. They're also going to be very price conscious. They're going to know like all of the product pricing, positioning of most of the competitors before they're willing to go into a pricing discussion with you. So it's going to be more of a negotiation. And you're going to have to do, I guess, a lot of discovery as you're going to have to almost enable the rep that you're speaking to find out enough information about your process so far so that they can give you the information that you need in a succinct amount of way. And I'll just give you an example of that. Like,
because we just recently went through this process at Impressive, right? Before COVID-19, where we're evaluating our, well, I mean, essentially our entire tech stack, but really one particular tool in our business that is our project management tool, right? So, sorry,
Asana,
off, but it's just, Asana, if you are listening, this is at you. But yeah, like it was an interesting process. I'd never gone through an evaluation tool process like this before, and I guess like mate, I got that from you. So maybe sorry to cut you off, but if you can take us through, I guess, that process, because I reckon for a lot of listeners right now, it is so important. I said this on I think a podcast that I was on a couple of days ago, and I said, guys, like right now is also the time to be going to these vendors and these suppliers and negotiating, right? So now is, I think, an opportunity as well to clean up some of the software that's probably not being utilized, or you're underutilizing, whatever it may be. But anyway, I'll stop rambling and I'll let you finish.
Yeah, no. You're 100% right. Anyone, I mean, in any time of depression, if you have extra capital and the ability to make decisions on products and services, you should be able to get better terms. And it sucks to say because of the nature of what's caused the depression, but from a business sense, if you are in a position, you can do some good deals right now on software. And to be honest, you're supporting the software through the company through the period. So negotiating and giving them something isn't the worst thing in the world. The key point is like, as a buyer, I'm going to evaluate 4 or 5 different pieces of software. On the first process, sure, I want to hear about the company background, and they all want to run you through this bit of a spiel, a bit of a slideshow, things like that. They've got a set way that their sales reps have been trained to present a case to you. It's not until you're either a 10-year plus sales rep, or you've been working for that company for 4 or 5 years, that you can basically just cut the crap on the training that you've been given, this cookie cutter approach. You got to remember, when I was at HubSpot, for example, or any of these major software companies, they're throwing 100 reps to the sales floors across the world. They're training them all with the exact same way, and they're backing that training is going to make about 80% of them succeed. They know they're not all going to succeed. So if you're getting a really junior sales rep, it's going to be hard for them to think for themselves through the process. You really have to stop them from going on their general spiel, that sales line that they've been taught to say, that demo that they've learned how to recite, and it goes for half an hour, and it might cover off, 5 minutes of it might be relevant for you, and the other 25 minutes is just general stuff that they've been trained on. You almost have to stop those. You need to recognize when it's those type of people. How long have they been in sales for? How long have they been working at the company? You're going to be stuck with that person throughout the process, because that's the person that gets the commission if you buy the product, right? Yeah. So you need to cut them and almost say, these are the things I need to know. I don't want to know about anything else. I need you to answer those questions. And if you can't answer them, I need you to come prepared with someone else, or go and find out the answers and come back to me with those. Otherwise, your evaluation process is just it's just going to take 10 times longer. You're eventually going to get annoyed with that person because they can't cut through and answer your exact questions. So you need to take control of the situation. When you have an experienced rep that basically they'll be like, you're an evaluation. Is this your 4th or 5th tool that you've evaluated? You must be really sick of this. And you'll be like, yep. And they will go through and find out your pain points and cut through to those things and tell you how, and give you options about how you can evaluate the software. Not all of them will give you options. Not all of them will tell you that they have a trial that they can make available for 7 days, or that they can send in someone and give you some customer support and onboarding. You have to ask for these things. So when you're buying a piece of software, try to realize that, first of all, who are you dealing with at the software company, and how can you make your time most efficient? The second point is, what are the levers that they have to pull to help you evaluate that software? Is it just a slide deck demo and you just have to trust that the software does what's in that slide deck and you just have to go all in? Because that sucks. The second one is, is there a chatbot? Is there a chatbot you can engage with? Is there a trial they can offer? Can they guide you through a trial? Can they offer you a solutions engineer? Can they offer you to speak to someone else within the company or within another company that you might know that's using the piece of software? So if you're not asking all of those, if you're not asking all those questions, like you're not really giving yourself the best chance. The
I
final
think we've
piece
got,
is like,
yeah, sorry.
yeah.
I
Final
don't go
piece
for it.
is just like check your crowd, trust radius. You got to go onto these comparison sites and read some reviews.
Yeah. I think we might have a question from Matt. Matt, are you there?
You're on mute if you have a question, Matthew.
Yeah,
you can just type it in the panel here.
Yeah, Matt, mate, if you want to just type it into the panel and we'll, oh, no, you hit the wrong button. There we go.
We'll see what Matt has to say.
We'll come back to that. We've got, sorry, we've got one here from Justin. So Justin runs a service-based business. Harry, I believe you are actually helping Justin migrate this CRM to HubSpot. So he's actually got a ripper question here. You know, like, what are some quick win tips for the current COVID-19 situation when they're actually up and running, right? So, you know, keeping in mind that they're a service-based business, it's not a product-based business. So, like, what are some quick tips for these guys to get up and running pretty quickly, given the current situation?
Okay, and so we have a website up and running.
Sorry? No, with the migration.
With the migration. Okay.
With the migration, yeah.
First of all, if you don't have, like, I mean, if you have an online presence, you should have some sort of CRM that connects to your website. There are some free options out there. HubSpot's a great free option. Consider it. If you're an e-commerce type business, look at Klaviyo or something like that. In fact, definitely look at Klaviyo. It's quite good. If you're saying, okay, crap, you know, we have an online business, but all our customers are scattered throughout our email or on some Excel sheet or something like that. So we can't track, because on a free CRM, you can track if those people have been doing something on your website. So what pages they've looked at, have they opened your marketing emails that you've been sending them? So some deeper analytics that you should really be starting to collect now if you're going to do some smart things in the future. I mean, take the Amazon model, just start collecting data in a certain industry. You'll figure out something to do with it later. But if you never have the data, you're going to be going back to this step that I'm explaining now in like a year or two. So just start collecting now. You'll figure out the reporting in a year or two when the software and everything catches up. So that's that you need to get that mindset, first of all. The second piece of mindset is like, and I'll go into the migration in a second. How are we going to collect the data, right? Like, how do we collect data? Because you can't really rely on manual input to fill out a whole database. So there's going to be 3 points, right? Once you get the CRM, you're going to think, okay, when I enter a contact, what information am I going to force someone to enter when they create a new contact? Because they have to enter that information at the time. Second one is, what information do I put on my forms on my website? Because whatever is put on there is going to flow through into your CRM and is going to complete a contact record in terms of the properties you collect. The third one is when a sales rep creates a deal. When a sales rep creates a deal, or when a customer is creating an account, if it's an e-commerce platform, they're going to have to enter some questions. And that's about the last time that you can reasonably expect them to fill out any number of questions to go on to a next stage without being like kind of annoyed about it. Like, they kind of have to create a deal. They have to create a contact. They have to create an account. Don't expect you to be collecting some great information outside of that. So that's the next point. When you're migrating the data, I think the first thing you want to do is get everything in one central place. In fact, you definitely want to do that. Excel is the easiest and most obvious. In a CSV file, you want to start to evaluate the columns of information that you have. Like, what information do we have? Do we have first name, last name, email, phone number? Do we have like industry? Do we have what product category they've bought in the past? Do we have an age range? You know, all these demographic factors. You need to sit down and look at what you've got and ask yourself, if I had the best reporting on my business, on my customer base, what information would I actually have? Write down all of those things and then segment, what am I missing? There's probably going to be like 10 properties of information that you're missing, and ask yourself reasonably, if I go back to those steps of the forms on the website, the contact getting created, the demo getting created, the account getting created, or a shopping cart purchase, maybe another one. And can I reasonably ask those questions? And will people tell me those answers? Maybe pick the 4 or 5 that you think you can get. Look at other ways that you can get the other missing information, but then put those questions into those different areas. So now at least we know, okay, we don't have a perfect database right now, but within 6 months, a year, through those processes, we'll start to at least have 10 properties on everyone, which we can start to report on. Now, we obviously, when we go to import the CSV file into the CRM, we're going to need to create those properties. So you need to go and create the property so that they've got some information's got somewhere to live. Those would be the key ones. Okay, so export everything to a CRM, evaluate your data, think about what you're going to want to report on in like 2 to 3 years time, build those properties into your new CRM, import in the data, and now you've got processes to like naturally clean your database a little bit over time.
Yeah, and I think I might just add, I might just add to that actually for you as well, Justin. Like once you're up and running, I think right now as a service-based business, we can obviously relate to that. Right now it's all about value. And I think I mentioned this on the first webinar, right? If you're going in there and you're treating that database as one individual, so you're just essentially spamming the entire database with the one message, that the database is A, going to deteriorate very, very quickly, and B, you're just going to get there's some serious hard bounces that are going to happen throughout that list. So, I guess my biggest advice will be to just try and personalize the experience as much as possible. And based on like just even what you were saying there, Harry, around like, the segmentation of the database, whether it's by age, by segment, by vertical, by gender, however it needs to be segmented, and then personalizing the messaging and the workflows throughout, whether it's HubSpot or any other CRM, right? Because I think, long gone are the days of just treating the database as one and just spamming it with the same newsletter that's not personalized to the end user. So I think that's very, very important. So segmentation, personalization, and I know, HubSpot's a great tool for that. For anyone that's listening in the e-com space, Klaviyo is an awesome tool. I'm a big fan of Klaviyo. If you want, like, I almost see Klaviyo as almost being like, I don't know, like the BMW of CRMs. A step up from there, I'm a big fan of Emarsys. I'd probably say that's like a Bentley, right? I don't know if you agree with me or disagree. And there's obviously like the Ferrari.
I don't know if we can call the Klaviyo the BMW just yet, Rob. I think we're looking at a Chevrolet or something like that. We're looking at a Hyundai, but it's a very serviceable Hyundai.
Maybe we'll call it a Volkswagen, right?
Hey, I want to go. There's like a core topic I want to touch on, just because I know we're going to run out of time. Just me and you.
Let's go.
Yeah. Just like, I want to help people that are trying to build a website or trying to evaluate how they can put better technology or like on their website or create a better conversion path or something like that. I think like I've learned a ton on this over the last 10 years basically, but a more concentrated last 5 years, you would say. I want to start with, like, first of all, let's think about a business that wants to build a new website, right? You're gonna build one. You haven't got one right now. Where are you gonna start? I see Squarespace ads all the time. I see GoDaddy offering some new marketing package. I see WordPress, all of these different sites. Wix is a big one. I want people to do their research before they start look at the softwares they're actually going into, because you might, whatever decision you make now, you're going to have to deal with the consequences of 6 months pretty much onwards when you try to build that website something more. So I just want to clarify this first of all. Wix is generally good as like a one-pager. It's generally good as a bit of a brochure. They have started to build things out a little bit more. It's not going to be very good for SEO. It's not going to have many plugins. It can be a bit limiting. Please be careful before you go and build your website on Wix, although it's super easy to use. You're a hairdresser, you just want to get a one-pager up. You want some local SEO in there, that's probably fine. The next one, and we just got a question on Shopify. I should mention that as well. I will get to that.
Yeah.
Next one, Squarespace. Yeah, look, a nice one, a nice easy platform to build on. Not as many plugins. I would consider. I would, once again, it's kind of a nice middle ground between Wix and like a WordPress. easy to build, but maybe not if you want to go more advanced in the future, but probably not as much functionality. WordPress, if you can find a template, like you might not be able to code, right? You might not want to pay for someone to be able to code. That's fine. This happens all the time. I would look at the templates on WordPress and see if you can get something done with WordPress before you go into the Squarespace or Wix avenue, just because there's so many plugins and so many integrations and so many like different ways you can take it later on that will save you future headache. You're basically making a bit more pain up front for a much better investment in your business longer term. I think Shopify, when it's purely going to be e-commerce up to a certain size, I would look at the scalability if you are thinking about massive scale with Shopify, because it has been built for the lower end of the market. Shopify just introduced like a more enterprisey type, I can't forget what it's called right now. I know that Kylie Jenner Cosmetics or whatever. Yeah, there you go. Shopify Plus. Can't believe I didn't think of that. They use Kylie Jenner as their bloody example or whatever. I think still look at the smaller scale of the Shopify website, still look at the overall functionality, customization. I've just heard that it's going to cap out at a certain scale. So make sure you're doing your research there, but it's certainly going to work well with the e-commerce plugins. So like, just choose your website first. Think about all the peripheral factors like landing pages, email plugins, tracking codes, social plugins. Don't just think it's just a website on its own, because it has to plug into so many other things.
Yeah, CRM, automation, SEO is a big one. Like the amount of times we've received, clients have engaged us, we've ended up with a bit of a mess of a website to deal with. And it's like, man, like you're going to have to either re-platform or we're just going to try and hack our way through it, right? So it's very, very important that you're right, that it's evaluated. But on Emma's price, like, Shopify and Klaviyo are like, they're a match made in heaven. MailChimp used to be Shopify's preferred email and marketing automation platform, and then they had a bit of a bad breakup, and then sort of Klaviyo came in and sort of took that position. Those two are all, like, I guess, the ultimate stack for a business. I reckon it's doing up to Shopify standard without going to enterprise, or Shopify Plus. I think you could pretty much function on that till about maybe 10 mil. Without having no serious issues. The minute you start scaling and the minute you start running different shops, whether it's international, the US or UK or Europe, whatever it may be, then you really need to start reevaluating the platform. You can either move to then Shopify Enterprise. You can then look at Magento. There's BigCommerce. There's WooCommerce. There's a whole bunch of different e-com and CMSs that can be evaluated. So we've got a question here from Brent. So find issues always upgrading WordPress themes and plugins. Had no issues with Squarespace. Brent, I couldn't.
Just typing back to it now. Look, Squarespace has come a long way. If you had something to say there, Rob.
No, go for it. I mean, WordPress, I know, like updating plugins, basically.
Yeah, Squarespace has come a long way. WordPress, like, it does take a bit more training and things like that. If you can look at, like, there's a lot of overseas cheap WordPress developers, things like that. I do take your point though. Squarespace, if you're doing it yourself and you're not that well into coding and things like that, it's an option. Yeah, the second thing I wanted to, the other thing I wanted to get to was like, if you already had a website but you're updating it, like, there's two options. We're looking at a complete overhaul, which is okay because we have the skill to do it. We have a lot of resources and things like that. But like updating your current one, there's a lot of businesses who are like, crap, my current website is currently out of date. What am I going to do? What's a short I know that people don't always realize that there's like a short term, medium term, and like kind of long term option you can take here. Do you mind if I go on about this for a sec?
Yeah, no, go for it, because I've got my own opinions on that as well. So you start.
Well, like, okay, short term, marketing agencies, us included, business owners, whoever's making these calls, marketing managers, shorter term options are often just landing pages. Like we do it for a lot of businesses. The website sucks. The conversion rate, getting to know Google Analytics and getting to know, well, you can't say the website sucks, but the conversion rate of the website sucks is a more correct opinion. If this is identified as a problem and you've got to look at the value of your traffic. You got to, the amount of people that are finding your website is of a certain value. Like, let's take this back to the yellow pages days. If you could have known you had 500 people looking at your ad every week, you would be looking at conversion rates. Like, you would be, I don't know, I'm trying to put an offline spin on what's an online kind of metric, which is a conversion rate metric. But sending people to a well-designed landing page, which might only cost you, it takes our designers, between 2 to 5 hours, can be up to 6 to design a landing page. There's a lot of different elements that could fluctuate that. But designing your own landing page on Unbounce is like building your own website on Wix. It's pretty easy to do. You can plug it in and you can do a short-term solution to like sending those 500 people to a landing page, getting a conversion rate of like 5 to 8%, or sending them to a website which might convert at 1%. That's 8 times more leads, right? So short-term there. Have you got any thoughts on that, Rob? I know we've done this a ton and seen massive success with it.
Yeah, 100%. I think, like you said, you need to take it in stages, right? Like, I'm a big believer in updating a site every sort of 3 years or so. And I know we've just hit our 3-year mark, hence our site is currently being redesigned and redeveloped. But I think, look, for the business that doesn't have the resources on hand, like you said, it's one thing to go and engage a design and development agency to just jump straight into it. Next thing you know, you've got a $30, $40, $50,000 bill for a brand new site, right? Or the other approach is, and this is probably getting a little bit controversial now, I would start running like some sort of conversion optimization, right? Because you got to think about, like, why are you actually redesigning or redeveloping a website? Like, what is the main objective? Is it just so that you need to update the look and feel of it? Is it the performance? Is it not generating enough leads, not enough sales? So if those are some of the questions, if it's performance based, I would start running some heat maps on the side. I'll start running some conversion testing to try and get the site to a point where it's actually converting at its highest rate. Then you can go and give it to a design agency or a development agency to rebuild. But your point around landing pages, like, they could just be very quick fixes and very quick ways of getting, leads, or, going to market with a different value proposition, anything of that sort of nature, right? But my biggest, and we did this at Impressive before we rebuilt our website. We went and did 18 months worth of testing on the site to try and get some data around what converts, what doesn't, which buttons are working, which ones aren't, which pages are getting the highest amount of traffic. And then we compiled all that information. We put it into a deck, and then we went and briefed the designers and the developers on how they should design and develop. One of my biggest concerns is design and development shops, like, they just design sites that look great. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But then as marketers, we end up with these websites that don't convert well. They look amazing, and then we're sort of stuck there trying to get them to generate leads and generate sales. So I think, it needs to be taken from a MarTech perspective. Like, how is the site going to convert when it's live? What are the main call to actions on the site? What's above the fold? What's under the fold? What is actually drawing the user to convert on the site once they get there? That is critical, whether that be a landing page. And I know I've sort of got on a little bit of a tangent here, but like, whether that be a new landing page that you want to test first, and see if that converts well, you can maybe run an A/B test on that. And if you can get a variation that's converting well, great, take it, and then start basing your site off that variation. That's like some of the smartest ways to redesign, redevelop a site.
Yeah, and I chucked in there. I chucked in as well, Rob, into the chat for everyone, like Hotjar and
Hotjar, yeah.
SmartLook. Yep. SmartLook is another one that's worth considering. SmartLook has better custom. Hotjar refused. You can't speak to anyone. Just for those. Hotjar.
Yeah, they run a very lean shop over there. We've got a question here as well. I don't want to dismiss that from Emma. Who's actually one of our current clients. I know she runs a business with us that runs on WordPress with WooCommerce. She managed to get her hands on some sanitizers and some face masks. And the question is, obviously eBay charges too much, so she's looking for some alternatives to get the product online. And she's asking if Shopify is a solution. 150% M. As you go to, I'll send you a link. It is so easy, and that was, Shopify's value proposition is they wanted to make it easy and give business owners control. So there's some themes, basically jump on there. Some of them are free. Just seriously, some of the free ones are awesome. But if you want, you can buy a theme for $180. Like, you can almost do it yourself if you're a little bit tech savvy. It's not rocket science building one of these. Once you start customizing it and building in different integrations and so on, yes, you will need a developer. But if it's just as simple as launching a site with 2 products, face masks and sanitizers, make sure you got some good product photography, and you can literally build a site yourself and be up and running within a week. Like, they actually make it very, very easy, especially if it's just a little side business. But for some of our listeners out there that have got, if they're a site that are making, $1 million or $2 million or $3 million or whatever that number is, I would recommend that you do, follow my advice on this, do some testing on it, get the site to convert at an optimum rate, then give that to a designer and develop and say, design and develop this. Don't think of it. There shouldn't be an emotional attachment to a site. I've been, exposed to my fair share of website over the last decade, right? I've seen sites that are worth, $500,000 that don't convert well in e-commerce. Legitimately, like, they look amazing, and there's all these cool functionality and, and transitions and animations and all that sort of stuff. And that's awesome. But what is the main purpose of a site at the end of the day, right? It needs to act as a salesperson for that business. So, you can have some really good salespeople and some pretty shit salespeople, right? So, for me, I almost take the emotional element out of the design and the look and feel, and I focus more on the user experience. Like, as a user, if I was to land on that site, what is the first impression, and what is the path to purchase that you're taking me down to convert a lead or generate a sale? And that is so critical. So I hope for some of our listeners out there that are listening to this, that's helped.
I would also like, we're almost kind of finished here. I think one of the key themes that, like with the digital marketing, with the website, moving online, thinking about software, conversion rates, things like that. Unfortunately, like marketing, when I did my degree, which was 10 years ago now, and there's going to be people who have learned about. I know, exactly. That's what I was going to say. There's going to be some people that are much older, even people up to now. Just know that like the what's being taught in universities isn't really that cutting edge when it comes to digital marketing. Like, me and Rob aren't interviewing graduates that are really up to speed with what we're doing. We're still having to educate people. Unfortunately, the education in Australia, compared to like the US, for example, where I've been exposed to a lot of their digital marketing courses, it's like chalk and cheese, right? So essentially, like, where I'm going with that is like, first of all, like the online education that you can get in this space from like say the HubSpot Academy or Unify, or there's like a few
Google Garage.
Yeah, things like that. The education that you can get is basically as good as what anyone is going to get, unless they've spent considerable time in the industry. I would say combining like free education or very cheap online education with some sort of free and testing tools is going to put you, unless you're going to an agency or unless you're going to someone with considerable experience, is like a really good way to kickstart the whole process. And the other point that I was going to make is like, marketing's often seen as this sexy thing. We're doing big images and messaging and these a lot of buzzwords, right? Like a lot of big ideas and there's a certain perception of it. Online marketing really it's like sharpening an axe. It's like taking one really simple piece of information, or like putting a conversion tool and realizing that a form here is going to convert at half than a form up here, and like just continually chipping away and just chopping and changing things. It's putting out one image with like 10 different pieces of copy and testing it across Facebook and realizing that there's one of those variations that converts at 1% higher than every other variation, right? It's kind of painstaking. And you really have to get your like year 10 science student, I'm just going to try 10 variations of everything across every part of the customer journey, across every point that could be a conversion rate could be changed, and just continuing to plug away at that. And until you kind of admit to that and don't kind of occupy your mind with these big ideas and these big images and content and things like that, of course, those things are going to be very impactful, but they're only going to provide a tweak to a very small part of a conversion rate at one part of a process that might have 10 points where the conversion rate is impacted. So don't spend too much time on it. Don't think that it's the be all and end all, and that little video that you filmed for 10 grand is going to change the whole face of your business, because it's one of 10 points that someone can convert, and it might change a conversion point 0.5%. So that's the reality. So just like, once you can get that into the way that you're approaching the online marketing and really being practical about that, I think those are the people that are making the biggest gains, right? As soon as I speak to someone that's in that mindset, I can just go straight to where I want to go. I don't have to go onto this full path of education of bringing them up to speed to that point where we can talk about the actual problem at hand and the actual solution. We'll get caught up in all this other fluffy stuff that's, might have a small impact, but in terms of making a big change and a big result for them, it's not really going to do too much. So,
very valid point. Yeah. I was going to ask you one last question, and I'm just cautious of time as well. So, and just for our listeners, if you've got any questions, please shoot them through. We've got about 5 minutes or so. But just from your point of view, like, being at the forefront, what have you seen, I guess, businesses out there are doing as far as pivoting their business ideas? Have you seen anything, and how they're using, I guess, technology to pivot? Have you seen any examples over the last sort of 3 weeks or so where a business that, maybe like a restaurant or hospitality, something in that vertical, where they've pivoted to maybe an online space, right? And have used e-commerce or, or something of that, of that nature to pivot their business?
Yep. Okay, I'm going to give 3 quick examples. One, I'm not going to name the businesses because all of them are current clients of ours, and I haven't even asked them if I can. One is a chicken shop. The guy, an Italian fella, owns 3 chicken shops in the one town. It's a pretty big town. They're in different suburbs, right? No website. No one's coming to his chicken shops. He comes to us early. He's got a set budget, right? Within that budget, we got one website with 3 kind of key pages, like almost landing pages, just pages that all you need to know, optimized for local SEO for those areas that he's in, right? We teed him up with like all of the different people that could distribute his product. He was able to turn some of his current staff that were underutilized into delivery drivers as well, right? So Uber, Deliveroo, all of that, Menulog, all of that, plus those. We fast-tracked. He had a big extended family that worked, and sorry, I hope you're not listening, Google, but they'd all been customers of his shop, and they were able to go and provide some solid Google reviews, and we created a Google My Business account so that was showing up in the local SEO type areas, okay? We then created a clear pathway, some clear copy on the website that like is coming directly from him to say, look, this time is tough on all of us. It's tough on me here. We have a great business. Our employees are pivoting. We'll deliver you the food. Like, you tell us what you want. Here's an order list. And he did constant social media promotion to his local community and encouraged people to follow him. And he did a little bit of local PR as well. So the local newspaper, there's local newsletters you pick up at your local cafe and things like that. He was in all of those things, right? He's still operating at 80% capacity, which he was basically going to be faced with that 20% capacity. And I can guarantee there's so many other small restaurant takeaway type owners that could have been doing the same thing. He's probably operating at 80 because he's got most of his competition not done anything at all. So he's starting to pick up their business as well. So look, man, small chicken shop. Who would have thought? Really proud of that guy. Really happy story. The second one was an online, a yoga business, like yoga and Pilates, obviously like PT training, all that stuff. Like, you're done. Like, there's no one can come to your studio right now. It's a sad time. We're hearing about these people pivot online, but what she did was she basically pivoted to thought about who was stuck at home together. And so instead of just addressing, it might have been myself as a normal client, she was now saying, you know what, pull in your mum, pull in your sister, pull in whoever the hell you're at home with, and I'll give them some introductory courses. And so they're going to show up to your classes. You can continue to pay me, and she knew that people were going to be less able to pay her. So she spread the risk across the family that they were involved in, and everyone checked in, you know, your $3 or whatever, there was 5 of them, they all did that class. So although she's lessening the value of her product in a shorter term, at least she's going to have a business to stay open, and she's opened it up to a much wider range of customers that have nothing else to do with their time and want to do some physical exercise. So I think she's expanded her database by 5 times, from about 50 customers to about 250. And she's now got like family offerings and all these other things. And, you know, she could have just thrown her hands up in the air. Super, super proud of what she's done there. The last one is a bit of a bigger business, and it's it's in the accounting and finance type space. Once again, you can't really get people coming to the shop or the business, you would call it. And it's a much older clientele generally who haven't been so open to teleconference and things like that. So when it happened, they actually pivoted right away. They brought out a guide of how to set up so that you could actually have this meeting. Like me and you having this meeting to them is a big deal to some of the older generation with their accountant and things like that. So the very first action they put was education about how we could even continue to carry on this relationship. The second point was, as soon as they'd done that, they did a free consultation with everyone just to talk through how they were going to continue business operation as general during this and test out the face-to-face communication, plus also get on the front foot and give these people some advice to calm their nerves. And then the next point was to schedule in their regular monthly get together or whatever it was. But they were super proactive with the whole thing. They enabled the conversation to happen. They got on the front foot with giving some advice and some value to make them feel comfortable. They actually helped that person make the societal transition to working from home, as opposed to making them do the societal transition to continue to do business with them when they're actually paying that person, which I mean doesn't really make sense when you think about it. The business enabled the consumer to continue to do business with them, as opposed to the other way around. So I think all of those philosophies and inspiration, I'm super proud of all those guys.
Mate, that's awesome. That's some really, really good advice. So, team, we're going to have to finish there. So I hope you've enjoyed the session this morning. If you've got any further questions for Harry or myself, feel free to shoot us an email. It's harry@impressive.com.au or rob@impressive.com.au. Happy to answer any questions. If you need any support, anything of that nature, feel free to reach out, guys. We're here to help. Use as much as you can. So all the best and take care.
Yeah.
See everyone.
There you go. Take it easy.